It's springtime and the dandelions are in full bloom. I hate to admit it, but I've been late in getting to the pruning of my hop plants. The bull shoots have even started to put on leaves. I've got dandelion flowers and I've got hop leaves, so I'm making a quiche. It's so good and so easy, there's not even a crust. Welcome to Haphazard Homestead. I'm glad you're here. I'm Holly Chris, and let's get to picking. My hop patch has gotten out of hand. It's okay though. These are still the bull shoots that come out in that first flush of growth in the spring. These are not the shoots that I want to let grow that make the hop cones that I harvest in late summer. I've got a video all about pruning hop shoots if you're interested in that. I'll put the link down in the video description. You can see that there's a mix of shoots with and without leaves. So as I'm picking, I'm keeping the two kinds of shoots separate from each other. It just makes it easier to handle back in the kitchen. What do these leaves taste like? Let's find out. They're not half bad. Back in the kitchen, all I have to do is pull the leaves off the stems. These stems are way too tough to eat, even if I were to blanch them. But the leaves are still tender and not very bitter at all. I'll show you why it's important to prune these early season bull shoots. You can see that long distance on the stem between where the leaves grow. That distance will be a lot shorter on the later shoots. That means the pruned hop plant will have more dense foliage and create more plant energy and produce a bigger crop of hops. And take a look at this. These bull shoots are hollow. They just don't have the strength of the later shoots. They bend and crimp. The later shoots are more wiry. I'm not using all of these leaves. You can see how the bigger leaves have a different texture. They're more tough, they're more hairy, they're more bitter. It's really just the younger leaves that I'm after. They aren't as bitter as they could be because the weather here has been cloudy and cool. Here's a tip. For hop leaves that are on the bitter side, I put them in a bowl of water and then put that in the refrigerator for a day or even two. That really leaches out a lot of the bitterness. But here's a warning. It does not change the texture of the leaves. Very, I shouldn't say sticky, but they have a very rough texture. And if you just are eating these raw, unless you kind of cut them up into smaller pieces, they will stick in your throat because they got little, not stickers, it's just roughness. It's roughness, and it definitely goes in a direction. Smooth this way, but it's a lot rougher that way. So while these hop leaves are drying off here on the towel, let's go get some dandelion flowers. I think it's amazing how a small dandelion plant, even with scruffy leaves, can make such a big, vibrant flower. I know this plant is tiny because it's growing in compacted soil and not because of any spray. It's easy to tell a real dandelion from any of its lookalikes because there's only one flower head per stem, and that stem is hollow. Now here's a tip when you're picking dandelion flowers. If you already know that you're just going to use the flower parts of the dandelion, then go ahead and cut it like that right out in the field. Just cut the base of the dandelion high enough that the whole flower head breaks apart. If you don't have plans for what you're going to use those dandelion flowers for yet, then just cut off the whole head and you can make your decision later. Or you can cut the whole dandelion stem off at the base. That way, back in the kitchen, you can cut some whole dandelion heads and use those for deep frying. But if you know you want to use just the flower petals, I think the easiest way to process the dandelions is just to cut the base of the flower off and keep some of the green parts with the yellow parts. Now, if you were trying to make something like dandelion wine, it would be really important to get all of those green parts out. It'll change the flavor of the wine otherwise. But for cooking something like this quiche, it's okay to have some of the green parts in there. All right, let's get on with making the quiche. I start off with 3 cups of milk that I heat up on the stove to scalding. Then I add some blue cheese. Once that blue cheese has all melted into the milk, I set it aside to cool and start to focus on my hop leaves. I chop the hop leaves up into tiny little pieces. Now, I do saute these hop leaves so that they're more tender and to drive out a lot of the water in the leaves so we don't end up with a soggy quiche. Because I'm going to cook the hop leaves, when I was out picking the dandelions, I also picked up some wild chives, or what some people call wild field garlic. The leaves can be used just like chives. So I chop the wild field garlic and saute it in some olive oil, and then add the chopped hop leaves and just wilt those leaves. It doesn't take very long to cook the hop leaves down. Then I set all that aside to cool off a little bit and go back to that milk and blue cheese mixture. I use an old hand mixer to blend in 4 medium-sized eggs one at a time. Then I add my wild chives and hop leaves, and finally I add 2 really densely packed cups of those raw dandelion flowers. It takes a while to get those dandelion flowers all mixed in really well. They make the quiche batter really thick. Then I poured my batter into a greased pie pan. This is about an 8-inch deep dish pan, and put it all into a 350-degree oven for at least an hour, but I kind of lost track of time, so it's probably more like an hour and a half before it all turned a nice brown and set up nice and solid. I let the quiche cool off to set up a bit and get more sturdy before I cut it into pieces and then put it on my plate. While it was cooling off, I went out into the yard and picked some chickweed for a side salad. I topped that chickweed with some fermented redbud flowers that I'll show you how to make in an upcoming video. And then it's time to eat. Oh, am I kidding? Give myself a second. There we go. So how does this taste? Well, I sound like a horse when I eat on camera, so I'll give you a live taste test review once I'm finished eating. Here it is. Oh yeah, that was delicious. That was so good. You can't buy hop leaves or dandelion flowers in a store, but they're really good and worth eating. If you're interested in knowing more about growing and using hop plants, check out this playlist. And if you're interested in more about dandelions, check out this playlist. Hope things are going well at your place. Thanks for watching. Bye.